Small business owners, of course, anybody in the management area of their business, especially sales managers, and then obviously any sales agents or anybody in the sales organization at all, really. And then in addition to that, anybody who is an independent contractor or a micro business who, as we all know, anybody in a business of that size, you're doing every aspect of the business. And sales is obviously a major part of that. So next, we've got a little bit of information about me. So my name is Todd Miner. I currently work at Apptivo. I've been working with Apptivo for around a year and a half, something like that. I'm working out as a product manager, meaning I'm involved with talking to the customers, helping with documentation, giving support to people, just in general, helping customers out, figuring out what they need, and translating that into changes for the platform. Now, I've been programming for about the last 10 years or so, and I spent about 7 years doing quality assurance professionally, so that's kind of my professional background. And I'm currently residing in Fremont, California, living in the Bay Area, right next to Silicon Valley, and I do deployment support and training for Apptivo. And now let's talk about the topics of this webinar. So we'll start from the top, give a quick overview of what is Apptivo, which we kind of just did, but I'll dive in a little bit deeper. And then we'll talk about what is Salesforce automation. And then we'll move on to we'll cover some common pain points, like what are some problems that sales teams have to deal with day to day. And then we'll move into actually talking about the different sales applications that are available inside of our CRM apps. And then finally, we'll take an in-depth look at the customers and contacts app, which are obviously they're part of the CRM, but they're extremely closely related to those sales applications. And then we'll move on to managing sales leads from start to finish. So we'll actually run through some potential deals, and I'm also going to touch on what we can do after the sale. So also beyond like the actual sales lead and sales opportunity, once we get to the stage of issuing a quote or even issuing an invoice to get paid for the deal. So let's start off at the beginning. What is Salesforce automation? So this is a technique where you use business applications to help automate your sales tasks. And we have several different applications that we consider part of our Salesforce automation suite. And these are contacts, customers, leads, and opportunities. So what are these 4 different applications? The contacts app, actually I believe I have that coming up. Okay, yeah, we'll cover that in just a moment. So first, let's talk about some of the pain points of sales teams. Like, why do you need Salesforce automation apps? If there's no problem, then there would obviously be no solution for it. So first is it cannot really easily share information between your team members. So unless your team members are sitting right next to each other, talking to each other about every single deal, which isn't exactly an efficient use of time, then they're not going to have the info they need if one of them's out sick and needs to pick up work for the other one the next day, anything along those lines. We also have trouble tracking activities across multiple customers, leads, and opportunities. So, I mean, once a salesperson has over 50 deals on their plate at one time, it's very difficult for them to just remember where they are with all these deals and when they need to be following up. So having a system to organize everything and present it in an aggregated format is really, really useful for salespeople once they get to that point. And then right along the lines of that is it's really just hard to remember details about every person. And obviously the more details you have about a deal, the more you know about a customer, the more likely you're going to be able to close the deal. So it's important to be able to write down these extra details that you can't just store in your memory and keep up in your head and kind of count on for later. Is you can write them down, then every time you talk to a customer, you can review the details about them and always be prepared to close that deal. And the last one is lots of duplicate information is created and stored in an unorganized manner. So what you'll have is 5 different sales associates and maybe 5 of them that talk to a couple contacts at a company, but over time the contacts' numbers have changed and they all have 5 different pieces of information and only one of them has the right accurate number. So if you go around looking for that number, you're asking your employees, you never really know when you're going to get the right information. So having one system that everybody works off of can keep everybody in nice and organized where they never have to worry about getting out-of-date information and you never have to worry about wasting work because that's what duplicate data entry really is. Okay, so now let's talk about what these sales apps actually are and what the purpose of each one of them is. So as we talked about in Apptivo, each one of our apps has a small specific purpose and they kind of plug in together. So integration is really at the core of our applications. So each one of these apps is obviously going to follow that mantra where they're all going to do one small specific thing and they're going to flow together and plug in together to kind of give you everything you need to give you all the information about a specific customer or deal. So the first app is the Contacts app. And this is just a database of the individual people that you interact with. So this isn't a business entity such as like Walmart or so. But if you're speaking to one of the managers over a Walmart store, they would be stored as a contact in your system. And then the next entity is the customer, or as some people know it as, or call it in their business as an account. And that's the actual business entity that you're doing business with, meaning like who are you issuing an invoice to? Who are you collecting the money from? And what you'll do is you'll end up with potentially a group of different contacts available and associated to one customer. So you might be dealing with 3 different people who work for the single company, and you can have it organized in the manner where you separate the contact information for each contact, but you also get one set of central data just for the company, like what is the revenue of the company, or what is the company's public email address, things like that. And then the other 2, these are the ones that are actually the sales deals that you have going through the system. So a lead is basically just a name and a number. It's a potential deal, but you haven't really qualified it yet. It's very abstract. So most deals start off as a sales lead, and a lead is actually before the contact in the customer in the Apptivo sales process. Although you have the option to create a contact or a customer, typically you'll end up taking a sales lead, and once you qualify it, you'll create the contact and the customer and what we call the sales opportunity, which is the next step. So the sales opportunity is a qualified deal where you think there's a very real opportunity to do business. You think you are very likely to close this deal. So what you'll end up doing is you'll start off with a sales lead, which is just the name and the number. You'll follow up with them a bit, figure out more about their needs, and then once you've qualified them, you'll convert them into all 3 of the other objects. So you'll create the person that you're talking to as a contact. You'll write down the company, the business that they're working for as a customer, and then you'll write down the details of the sales deal, like what's the probability of it happening, what's the value of the deal into the sales opportunity. So we've just talked about the actual process of nurturing the deal and how you organize all the information around the deal, but I mean, that is just enough for some companies. Some companies only need Salesforce automation, but one very big benefit of using a platform like Apptivo is we have all those other apps, and they're directly integrated with these sales apps that we were just talking about. So in the natural flow of things in your company, you're going to be going from the sales process and then into the fulfillment process, meaning like how you're going to sell them your service or product, and then you need to either deliver the product to them or you have to go perform the service for them. So there's several different steps to getting paid at the end of the deal from them actually agreeing to proceed with the deal. So once you have an opportunity and you're at the final stages where you're ready to close it, the customer's ready to agree, there's a couple different paths you can take in Apptivo. One common path is before you actually close the deal, you need to issue an estimate so they can give you that final agreement on what this deal is going to be. And what we allow you to do is during the sales opportunity phase, you can actually add your products and services onto the opportunity and convert it directly into an estimate. So you can email a quote to the customer and they can approve it via email, and then you can take it to the next step after that. And then beyond that, you also have the option to go straight to what we call a work order, which is just dispatching your technician on site to go deliver the service. So if you have to go do like a computer repair on site, something like that, a work order, just keep in mind that an opportunity can actually be converted to any of these. So you can go to an estimate, and then the estimate can go to a work order, or you can go an opportunity straight into a work order, whatever your company's process actually does. And then the last 2 are order, which is a sales order if you're selling products. So you can just take your opportunity, push it into an order, and actually go to fulfillment. And then the last one's invoice. So if, let's say, you're a service business and you need to invoice them before you actually deliver any service, you can go straight from the opportunity, turn all those products and services into the invoice, and go email that straight to your customer. Okay, so we'll come back to this at the end, but we're going to be moving on to the stage where we actually show you some Apptivo flows, go through the sales process, and walk through each one of these apps and features that are available. Alright, so first what we're going to do is log into the system. And one thing to keep in mind when you're logging in is you're going to log in with your own email and password. So each employee, when they log in, they're going to have their own email and password. And they're all logging into one central business. Now, for some of you entrepreneurs out there, you might potentially have multiple businesses. So you do have the ability to associate your one email into multiple accounts. So you can actually just register multiple times with the same email. And what will happen when you do that is when you log in, you'll actually get a list of businesses right here. So most people are only going to have one business, meaning it automatically logs you in. But keep in mind this might potentially be useful for some of you. So we're going to log into our sample business here, which is Global Consulting. And this is a general IT do-it-all firm. So they do web design, they build custom applications, you name it. So What we want to do here is I want to kind of give you a quick tour of the general interface first. And what we're looking at right now is our personal user dashboard. So the most important thing is up at the top of the page, which is our actual navigation to go between the apps. So you'll notice we can see like teams, projects, leads, app right here. This application or this list can actually be customized for every individual. So let's say I'm a salesperson and I'm only going to be using some certain applications. I can customize my apps and then I can go through and I can only pick those sales apps that I'm really interested in. So I need to be looking at contacts, I need to be looking at customers, leads, and opportunities. So I just select those, and then it changes my values up here. So now I've got my list of apps based on how I'm going to actually be using Apptivo. And for some of you, I know you like different, you like the big icons out there to browse your apps. So we actually have two different menu styles. If you click your preferences up in the upper right corner, you can change your menu styles back and forth like this. And then the other one looks like this, where you get the complete list of apps and you have all your individual icons here. So you can see here are the CRM apps. Okay, so that's how you go between the apps. And one thing to keep in mind is, yes, we do have over 40 apps. So this list of apps can actually be whittled down. So based on what you have access to inside of Apptivo. So if you register your own business, you're going to be an administrator and you'll have access to all apps. But you can also restrict access to your employees. So they could, for example, a sales agent can only see the sales apps. And what that's going to do is it's going to restrict their access inside of this app store, meaning they have the ability to pick from any apps that you grant them access to and choose whether they want to view them or not. So you can see here I've got access to everything. But if I was a regular salesperson and I go to supply chain, I would see access denied right here, so I wouldn't have this option. But for any of the apps I have access to, I can customize whether they appear or not. So let's say I want to begin using the Cases app, and then over in Human Resources, I realize I'm never using the Teams app, so I just want to remove that. Oops. So I could just remove that. And then afterwards, once I go back to my home page, then that would update the list of apps up here. So I'd be able to see now I have Cases available, and over in Human Resources, now Teams is gone. Okay, so that's the basic app navigation. Now let's talk about what we're looking right here in the middle of the page. So this is basically the most important part of Apptivo. We have two tabs, What's Happening and the Activities. So this What's Happening tab is what has been going on in the business, meaning what you'll see is this news feed right here, which is basically a revision history for everything going on. So every potential event that could occur within the system, whether a contact is being created, a customer has a note added to them, an opportunity gets converted to an invoice, anything like that would pop up right here. You can see who's done it. And you can even interact with each one of these events. So if I see this work order gets created, I can say, great work, to comment on that. Or maybe I could offer this some advice on how to deal with that customer. And in addition to that, I can go view the details of any of this. So if I see a customer gets created or an invoice gets created, I could go click on that and go directly to that item inside of the system. And beyond that, you can even just post updates to your colleagues. So you can keep everybody up to date, you can ask questions to everybody, and it just pops right up in everyone's newsfeed right there when they first log into the system. And this newsfeed is completely filterable, so we'll actually see it pop up a couple more times in this demo. But right here, we can just select these drop-downs. And let's say, for example, we want to see what Frank Teton's been doing. We can filter this newsfeed, and now we see everything that Frank's been doing over the last couple weeks, which is really, really handy for a manager. Okay, so the last little component over here is, you'll notice obviously I've got a little profile photo for myself, so I get identified in the newsfeed, and I also see a list of every object I've touched on recently. So as a salesperson, I can hop on here and I'll be looking at all the leads and the contacts that I've been working on this week. Okay, so this What's Happening, as we said, was what has been going on in the business. But now let's talk about what you need to be working on. So as a salesperson, day to day, you're going to have all these different follow-ups you need to be doing with these different clients that you currently have available. So the only way to organize that is by looking at one singular list, which combines everything based on priority and the due date. And that's what this list does for you. So throughout every different customer and lead and opportunity inside of Apptivo, they all have what's called activities. And that's things like a task or an appointment or even sending an email or logging down a call that you had with a customer. And those activities, they'll appear like when you're looking at the customer itself. But each one of those is actually pulled back to this main list. So here when I log in, I'll actually get a list of every follow-up that I need to do, and it's just based on due date. So I can browse through here and I can just handle everything, check it off one by one, and go through my day-to-day work. And then if I ever have to put in a new task, I would go put it in inside of the app itself, But when I'm actually looking for work to do, I can always work from this one section. And beyond just being useful for yourself, once again, for a manager or just like looking at your colleagues' activities, it's great for that as well. So I can sort this by just my team's activities, or once again, I could go pick on Frank and see exactly what Frank's been doing the last couple of weeks. Now, this view is actually got one other twist to it as well. So we have this list view, which is just kind of something great to go through. But let's say you want to see how busy you are this week. You can actually switch this view over to a calendar view and watch your tasks pop up that way. And we can, of course, switch it between like day, month, week, so you get a good view of what's going on. And one thing to keep in mind is this is actually integrated with Google Calendar. So if I wanted to, I can connect my Google account, and I can create an appointment, and it would go publish it over to my Google Calendar. So if I've got like my Android phone over there, it pops up right on that calendar and keeps all my devices in sync, which is really handy. Okay, so we've covered the basic dashboard. The last thing we want to do before we actually hop through a flow is I want to show you one of the apps. And I want to pick one of the CRM apps that's relevant to what you guys are interested in. So let's grab the core of all of Apptivo, which is the Customers app, because there is no business without a customer at the end of the day. So what happens in Apptivo is everything that you do in your business gets related back to the customer, making it the perfect example for me to go through first. Now, one thing to explain about Apptivo is, like we said, we've had over 40 different apps, and obviously that's going to introduce a learning curve for our customers. So we've designed all of the apps to be extremely consistent with each other. So you'll notice that one app, it looks and works very similar to the other ones, even though it does do a different purpose. So I'm going to show you some of the general components inside of the Customers app, and you'll notice when we go to all these other apps, you can kind of apply all the same logic. All the different menus are in the same location. So once you learn one, you learn them all. So when you first click on an app, well, a couple of the main components you'll notice is you've got this navigation over on the left, which is kind of how you move around the app and how you find your different customers inside of the system. And of course, you can create a customer with this big button right here. And up across the top, you'll have the name of the customers with some buttons where if you always click on the name right here or this little home icon, you'll get back to the main customer dashboard we're looking at right now. And then you'll have some like general configuration settings for the app. So we have our notifications area, which is how you receive email notifications, and also how you can control that news feed. So you can see here's all those events that pop up in the news feed, and if I wanted to get an email for it, I would just check the box and hit save, and then anytime a contact gets created for a customer, Apptivo sends me an email and tells me about it. And the other one is our main settings area. So every app allows you to do a bunch of different customization options on it, such as changing security settings or changing the different field values. So for example, like you have the option to categorize a customer from a drop-down menu when you're creating one in Apptivo. So we give you the ability to change the values that appear inside of that drop-down. So whenever one of your sales agents creates a customer, they can only pick from the values that you set. And we have all these different fields available, like setting up your sales territories or your markets and market segments, things like that. And even beyond that, we give you the ability to create your own fields. So by default, we have things, yes, such as customer category and market segment. But let's say you're a more unique business, like here, this example business, I've got some ski resort details. So what if you're a manufacturer of like ski lift equipment, and you need these specific details about your customers? It's very important to you, but they're obviously not supported by default in Apptivo. It actually gives you the ability to create your own sections, add your own fields. So if I want to add another text field whenever any of my agents is creating a customer, I just drag it and drop it, I name it whatever I want, and then it'll appear anytime any customer gets created. So it allows you to really extend and customize the platform for anything that your specific business needs. And there's a bunch more security settings, just general settings. I'll dive into some of the other ones real quickly right now. So before we talked about every employee, you can restrict access to certain apps like the sales apps or the invoices app, anything like that. But for a sales organization specifically, this is one really common request is they have a bunch of different sales agents, but they don't want the sales agents to see each other's customers. So all of these sales agents get the security role to view the customer's app. But even inside of the customer's app, we want certain customers to only be visible by certain agents. So that's what we call data level access, meaning you're changing the access between one customer versus another inside of the same app. And what this does is if I select specific employees, it means it's enabling data level access. And what that means is there's a sales representative for every customer, and it can either be a single employee or a team of employees. But when you have data level access enabled, the only person who can view that customer is their sales representative or a member of their sales representative team. And in addition to that, it does respect the managerial hierarchy, meaning any manager of a sales agent who is the sales rep of a customer can also see that customer, and their manager's manager, and their manager's manager. Everybody all the way up the chain. So that's what data level access is, and you enable that app by app. So you might potentially do that in the contacts and the leads app, but maybe in the customers app, you don't mind. You're allowing everybody to see every customer, and that's completely up to your business. And a couple of these other settings are just some basic things. So I'll show you this 360 feature. It's a really cool feature soon, but you can just see the first type of object you want to see there. And then you can actually turn on and off some features. So we have like some e-commerce features related to like showing the API security and the IP address of customers. And not every customer uses them. So you'll notice from app to app, we do have these features where power users can kind of go in there and turn them on and really extend the functionality of Apptivo even further. And then also just kind of the customization aspect is the dashboard views right here. So you'll notice when we were browsing around on the main home page, we had the option to select by a customer category type or by a specific letter. So just based on how you browse around the app, you have the option to choose one or the other or both, as we have set up right here. Okay, so the last couple major components of this is the search. So obviously we have a basic keyword search, so I can just go grab a customer like that. But the one really unique part about our search is its interface with our reporting system. So right here, you'll notice as soon as I did a search, I can actually create a report to save this. So I can say like Max on customer right here, but I also just did a keyword search, so that's not very powerful. Where this really gets useful is when you do an advanced search. So let's say I want to find all of my corporate office customers. So everybody's categorized like that. Or if I want to set up any sort of special setting. So I could look at everybody from a specific territory if I want. I could run that search, and I can save that result. So I would save this as corporate customers, and I could have the option to share it with my colleagues. And as soon as I hit save, it actually appears in this reports area over here. So at any time I want, I can come back, and with one click of a button, I can come right back to that search. So over time, you can build up all these different customized searches and save them as reports. So you can really just hop around and get all these different views of your customers with just a couple clicks of a button. And beyond those customized search or reports that you can create, we also have built-in reports. So see over here on the right side, if I want to get a list of like all follow-ups and calls that my sales agents have been doing for a specific customer, I can go run an activity report, and I can base it on like a specific activity type or anything like that. So we have a bunch of these reports built into every single app as well. And then over on the left, you'll get some quick links, which is like adding employees, or we actually have a complete CRM setup guide, which I wholeheartedly recommend for you guys getting set up, even though we're covering everything right now. And beyond that, there's also some help links over there as well. So as you're navigating around the app, you'll see this help link section pops up. And based on which app you're in, these links will change to give you information about that specific app. Okay, so the last couple components here before we dive in and take a look at a customer itself is the upload. So we do have a CSV upload if you want to upload like your existing database of customers, and just these links over here. So if I wanted to select like all the corporate offices again, it'll filter by that category. And I'm able to do like selecting multiple customers. I can send them all emails. I can move them to a marketing target list, or I can download a CSV file with them. Those basic details. Okay, so at this point, let's go ahead and take a look at a customer. So the point of all these different views right here is always to find the customer that you're looking for. So once you find the customer, you're actually going to click on it, and now we're going to be viewing that one object itself. So each one, what we call it is the object in every app, is every app has like one primary object. So the customers has the customer, the leads is a lead object, all of that. So on the main page of the object, you'll see these different set of tabs. So you can get the overview, the 360 view, all of this. So the overview tab contains all of the unique information about this specific customer. So this is where we see what territory do they belong to, how many employees do they have, what's their revenue, details like that. And then down at the bottom, we'll see those custom attributes that we had created. So that's where the ski resort details pops up. And at the very bottom, you just see some related objects. But the important part of the related objects is over here on the 360 view. So this is one of the really cool features of Apptivo, which you can't really find with any other CRM systems or really many other systems at all out there. And this gives you the ability to learn everything about the customer and also create anything related to the customer. So let's just run through a scenario here. Your sales agent gets a call from a customer. The first thing they do is they type in the customer name and bring up their customer record right here. And they go to the 360 tab. They're by default viewing the contacts, meaning they're going to see the person they're talking to right here. they're going to know what type of, like what role this person has in the company and some basic details about them. If I wanted to, I could even click on Leslie right here and go find out all of her details, like what are her hobbies and everything like that, in order so I know how to deal with her. And then let's say Leslie has a problem. So that would be something that you would log in the support ticket system. So I could look at the current support tickets open for them. I can find out if they have one. If not, I can create a brand new one right here. So I just click this create button, and it instantly creates a support ticket that's automatically associated to the customer. So it's real quick. It allows you to kind of launch anything. And specifically to the process we're talking about right now, let's say a customer calls you up. They're an existing customer, and they've got a new deal they want to do with you. So you haven't talked to this customer in like 3-4 months after you finished their last deal, and right away you can see the deal that they're talking about. Even if you weren't the previous sales agent, you can see, we haven't done that deal with them, so this must be a new deal. And you can immediately hit create and start logging down all the details that this customer is telling you into this brand new sales opportunity. So it's real simple. It's meant to be a clean flow, and it's like really the launch pad for everything you do outside of Apptivo. And it can all happen within this 360 view tab. Okay, so then let me explain a little bit more about what these tabs are. So the 360 view is an example of what we call a common feature, meaning it's a feature that we actually roll out into many different apps. So for example, if you go look at an invoice, you're also going to have a 360 view where you can see everything related to the invoice. And some other common features are like the newsfeed, activities, notes, and documents, meaning no matter where you go in Apptivo, you're always going to see these pop up, and it's always related to that specific object. So these are notes just for this customer, and documents just for this customer. But every single item inside of Apptivo can have notes just for that. But there's also some apps that contain unique features. For example, this loyalty feature. So Apptivo, we have an app called the Loyalty Management app, which allows you to set up reward programs for recurring customers. And this feature is directly interfaced with our customers app. So we have a tab right here that allows you to control the user status within that loyalty program. And some other examples of unique features would be, like for example, in the leads and the opportunities app, we'll see that there's a tab called like items of interest, where it's only available in those couple apps, but it allows you to link a product from your product database directly to a sales lead. So that's an example of a unique feature. And let's just take a quick tour through these tabs before we run through and actually do a quick sales deal. So the newsfeed, this is, once again, that same thing we saw before. This is a revision history for this customer, but it's beyond just a revision history. It actually shows you everything related to them. So this is every estimate you've issued for them, every timesheet you've created for them, every opportunity you've closed for them, you name it. And then the activities tab, we've already seen this. It's a familiar interface, but this is where I would actually like log an appointment or write down a call that I had with the customer, and it would populate back on that main homepage. And then we have the notes, which is exactly what it sounds like. I can do bullet points, anything like that. Just write down notes so my colleagues can come back and check it out later. We can collaborate with each other. And then the documents tab. There's actually two different pieces of functionality here. So I have the option to just browse my computer and like I grab a sales proposal or an image or something like that and upload it to this customer. But I also can browse my Google Documents. So if I have Google Apps connected here, I can browse my Google Documents database, sort through, and find a document that I'm interested in. So like here's my sample witness spreadsheet, and I can add that. And it just adds a link right here. So I can, at any time, just click on this link, and it opens up the latest version inside of Google Docs. So instead of having to rely on uploading different versions of the document over and over, you just add this link over to Google Documents, and you always have the latest source. Okay, so we've gone through a complete app. I mean, guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but there is the questions window inside of the GoToMeeting area. So if you guys have any questions at this point, feel free to ask them. And if not, we're going to dive in and we're going to run through a sample scenario. We're going to take a sales lead and we're going to walk through the whole process from start to finish and close the deal. Okay. So where we're going to start is I want to talk about one new aspect which we haven't covered in Apptivo. One feature Apptivo has available is our API, and we developed a couple WordPress plugins where it allows you to actually connect your website directly to Apptivo. So here's a really common scenario where you'll have a contact form on your website where prospective customers can reach out to you and say and ask about your services. So it's the perfect example where instead of just receiving an email and having to go file that in your CRM, it'd be great if it could just create a sales lead right away. And that's what this form actually does. So I would fill this out on the website, and once I fill this out, it'll actually create a sales lead directly in Apptivo for me. So go ahead and submit that. Then over here, we're going to go into the leads application. So as we mentioned, this is the first step of the sales process. So a lead is typically just a name and a number and some basic information. So we'll start off and we'll go to the all area. So we'll go find that lead that I just created. And right here, we can see it just came through. So it's got that new status. And we'll notice there are a bunch of different statuses, so each company can customize these statuses for their specific sales process, and that's going to be very important. So one really important determination to make is, when are you going to consider a lead qualified? When do you convert it from a lead to an opportunity? And this is going to be different for every business. But let's say this example. This is an IT company, and this person just contacted and said, I'm interested in networking equipment. So yeah, you've kind of got an idea of what they're looking for, but not really. And let's just say this company has a lot of leads coming through. So this isn't necessarily that high on their radar. They don't really know anything about it, whether it's a $2,000 deal or a $200,000 deal. So in this case, we want to follow up a little bit before we consider it a sales opportunity. So the next natural step is your sales agent. They got an email notification when the lead came in. So they'd want to go to the activities tab, and let's say they give this person a call. So they're going to write down the details of the call, like initial discovery call, and then write down the summaries, like what did I talk about. And then I could add in any other details of who was there. I'd log whether I called them or they called me, and when it occurred, how long it lasted, all those details. One really unique thing that I want to point out right here is the ability to associate this activity to other areas. So you'll notice when I created it, by default it's associated to this sales lead. But let's say I also wanted it to show up when I'm looking at a specific contact in my system. Like this contact gave me the referral for the sales lead, something like that. I can search my contact database and I can select a contact. And that means when I'm viewing the contact, this same exact call log is going to pop up on the activities tab of that contact. And if I make an update in either location, it updates everywhere. But I can do this association to as many different areas of Apptivo as I want, so I can organize these activities however I choose. So I would create that, and then usually what happens at that point is I figured out a little bit more information about this deal. So let's say I found out that he was interested in some of the routers that this company offers. So I can search my database right here. This is actually searching another app in the system called the Items app, which is your product database. And here I'll be able to go through and let's say they wanted 50 of these routers. So I can just select that from the database and I would scroll down and add it. And this is that integration that we're talking about right here, where it's seamlessly plugging into different modules of the business. So now I've got these linked up. You saw like the price gets automatically pulled from my product database, everything like that, any description I had of it, it would all get pulled in here. And in this company, let's say the next step is once we qualify the exact products that they're interested in, we convert it to a sales opportunity. So at this stage, we would consider this lead qualified, and we're ready to move it on to the next phase. Some other common scenarios that might have happened is maybe you called up and they said, give me a call back in a week. Or maybe you called up and they said, I'm not interested at all. So instead of converting to the next phase of the process, there's a couple things you could do. One is maybe you schedule a follow-up for a week. So they say, call me back in a week. You do that. Or maybe they say, I'm not interested, but you talk to them a little bit, and maybe you could use them for some other services. Maybe you guys might do business in the future. So you could actually convert it instead of to a sales opportunity into just a contact and just store it in the contact system. But either way, you're going to want to be updating this lead and adding the new status of it. It's definitely not new status anymore. So either we would update it and say it's in the next status, like pending feedback or pending follow-up, something like that. Or in this case, since we did figure out exactly what they wanted, we're going to convert it to the next phase. So what we do with the lead is we convert it into these three different objects as we talked about. So we're going to take the customer, the business entity, the contact, that individual person, and then the opportunity is going to be the potential sales deal. So like the product they're interested in and everything, that's going to go into the opportunity versus all the personal contact information is going to get put into the customer and the contact. So we'll start this conversion, and Apptivo is just going to walk us through each step. So here we would just be able to type in all the details. I think I have a bunch of customers named that. You don't have to fill in any of these other details. We do have all the different customer fields available here. So if you scroll down, you can see everything. But once you're done, you would just hit convert. And what we'll notice is as we're stepping through each one of these processes, it'll automatically link all of these objects together. So like I just created the customer, and now you can see the customer is pre-filled into the contacts. So I'm just going to keep stepping through. And eventually I'm going to get to this opportunities page where I can fill in any final details about the deal itself. So for example, how much is this deal worth? $800. I can say what stage this deal is in. So this is another part that gets really unique for each business is you can see by default we give you some sample stages to go through with your opportunity, but most companies are going to have their own stages based on what activities they need to do to close deals. And then we write down like our probability, and we have to supply when we think this deal is going to be closed. So let's say we think we can close this in 1 week. So we'll select that, and then once we're done, we just hit the last convert button. Now at this point, what happens with the lead is it remains there, it stays in the system, but the status just got changed to converted. So now at the bottom, it's basically, this lead is just used for historical purposes. But at the bottom, we can see those new objects just popped up. So we can always come back to the lead and see the contact and the opportunity that got created from it. So here, we can either go click and view the contact, but the thing that we really want to do is we want to move to the sales opportunity, because that's the potential deal. So we could go to the Opportunities app manually and go find this one, but obviously clicking the link is a little bit quicker. So here, over in the Opportunities app, once again, you'll notice we have the same exact user interface, and it looks very, very similar to a lead. It's just got a little bit more focused feels on closing the deal and more value-oriented feels because we're closer to actually getting the money here. So at this point, you're going to basically be doing the same kind of activities. Is you'd probably go to the Activities tab, follow up with them, give them a call, give them an email, anything you need to do to figure out exactly what they want before moving on to the next stage. Potentially, let's say this deal dies off and they stop responding to you. You could move them over to a drip marketing campaign, so you could send it over to your marketing applications. You could quickly schedule a follow-up with them, anything like that. But let's say in the best case scenario, they actually want to buy more products. So once again, we'll notice if we hop over to the items of interest, we already have the products available there that we put on the lead, because every bit of data, like whether it's a note or a document, does get transferred over. And then I'd be able to come in here and we can always add more products or modify what's actually going on in this deal. So let's say they wanted to buy some software from us. So we could select that, and we could also add those on there too. And at this point, they basically said, yeah, I think we're pretty interested in doing business with you. Send me an estimate. So what we can do here is this is the potential paths we can take with the opportunity. You'll notice right now it only says estimate. But I want to show you one thing about this, because as I mentioned before, Apptivo allows you to choose the paths that your business takes, like based on your business process. So there's actually other available paths here. So if I go into the configuration and I select conversion for an opportunity, I can see that I also have the invoice and the sales order path available. So I actually have the option, if I wanted to allow my employees to do all three, which is kind of rare in most businesses, I can just update that. And then when I'm viewing that opportunity, I'll notice that my new options become available. So you as an administrator would want to hop in there and just hammer out what your sales path is going to be using the Apptivo apps. And then you can go in and configure Apptivo to restrict it so it forces the sales agents to use the path that you want them to use. So here, we can go convert to that estimate we were talking about, and we'll go over to the Estimates app, and you'll notice all the information, the contact, the customer, it's all pre-filled. All we really have to do is go through. We can select the template for the estimate, which is kind of a different topic, and then we'll see our products that we had on the opportunity are automatically put into the estimate. And really, it's as simple as creating it, and we can email it straight to the customer. So, that's one path we can take. Once we issue the estimate, basically has a built-in approval process, and then the estimate can be converted over to those other objects that we were talking about, like the work order, the invoice. Of course, in a different business, maybe you would convert straight to an invoice, but the point is, they all work the same, where every single one of those conversion paths simply takes the data available in the opportunity that you've been working on and moves it into the next phase. So that's really just one of the core concepts of Apptivo, is to completely eliminate the duplicate data entry and allow you to set up this unique flow that's based on your business processes and have that programmed into Apptivo so you can just slide all of your data from end to end while eliminating areas and reducing the amount of effort it takes your sales agents to work. And yeah, that's going to be about it for today. I noticed the questions have been pretty quiet today. If you guys had any specific questions, feel free to ask them right now. I'll remain online for a couple more minutes. If not, I'll bring back up my contact information. So if you guys want to contact me directly, I'm happy to help you. We have the main Apptivo support line, and you also might want to check out our Answers knowledge base, where you can search for just about anything you need to know, and we have a ton of content available on there. So there's a good chance that if you're asking a question that it's either already on there, or you can actually ask the question directly to our community right there, and a lot of time you'll get an answer very quickly. So yes, with that, I'll go ahead and put my microphone on mute. I'll be around for, like I said, a couple more minutes, and we will be publishing this webinar online in another few days or so you can look for it there on the demos page. And if not, hope you all have a great day and hope you enjoyed. Thanks.